Good morning, my friends, and welcome back to A Line in the Stars and the Eaglemoss Hero Collector Build Series. I'm Jordan, and today we're building you Episode 3 of Building the 1701D. In the previous video, we built Stages 3 and 6, and today we'll be building Stages 4 and 5. Well, let's get into it, shall we? We start today with the parts list for Stage 4. This section is a doozy with a lot of parts. When I did the unboxing, there was a part where I looked at this stage, saw the plastic model trees with all the clear and dark pieces, and was like, I don't know what this is. Well, I figured that part out. This section, like many others, going forward it would seem, is going to be manually placing every window on the Enterprise and choosing where and how they'll be placed. This is so cool. It is tedious work, but the end result is going to be amazing. As you can see here, the window sections are a direct copy of what we see on any view of the Enterprise D on screen, and were handled with a single plate with attached LED reflector that fit right into place in the die-cast plate that held the bridge section. My feeling is that with the cheaper first stages, for me it was $8 for the first month, at least on the special that I was given. You get nice quality parts, get a sense of what you'll be in for the build, and in essence, a marketing tactic to get you either to commit to the $57 a month for 32 months or bow out. So, for as nice as all the pieces were in the first stage, I was left curious as to how the windows were going to be handled. Was it going to be these window plates, or were we going to see something like the escape pods where there's a small sense of separation and depth of the model? Give it a realness that all modelers are looking for. In the Stage 4 assembly instructions, you're given a choice as to how you might want to install the windows. Every set of instructions going forward will have the window placement set exactly as what was on all the shooting models of the Enterprise D. You can copy that and get a screen accurate version of the Enterprise D, or you can choose to place them any way that you want to. I've chosen the screen accurate route as I feel that for the cost of the model, I want it to directly replicate what we've seen on screen since 1987. The choice is yours, of course, if you were to follow along with the build, but for me, this was important. It also made for a slower build on this stage as I took my time to match the windows to the instructions. This wound up being good for me. As I described in the previous video, I grew impatient waiting for my 1TB flash drives to arrive, and only wound up taking pictures of stages 4 and 6. If I were to shot this video and not done any speeding up, it would have been at least a 40-minute section, and I'm not sure that I wouldn't be able to keep any of you interested for that long. Now I have to say, I have gotten much better at editing in the last month, and I've learned so much about the program I'm using to edit and create these videos that I feel confident that I'll be able to do live action videos for every stage going forward. Here, we have the Stage 4 parts and their packaging. I have to hand it to Eaglemoss. They know how to package. Now that I've built 6 stages, my initial scrutiny of the packaging and the lack of descriptions on the packaging of where each part were and how it matched the magazine part list has faded into the background. I now understand what the reflector pieces look like, where, how, and the LEDs are placed into the model, and the general idea of what and how the model is going to be built. The dark and light trees here on the right are the individual windows that have to be placed into the hull panels one by one. There are 4 trees in each color, and each tree has 10 windows for a total of 40 windows. Each has to be individually removed and carefully set aside as you're getting ready to assemble the stage. It's crazy how small these parts were, at least for me with my stupid Lincoln log fingers. Here we have an up-close view of the hull plate sections. In Stage 4, there are 3 hull plate sections with 2 pieces of reflective backing. 2 of the pieces fit together and made up one section of the hull plating, with the remaining piece being an adjacent hull plate that was not connected to the others. As you can see here, which I really love, you see where the parts are located on the model. It's like a very large, very expensive puzzle that we're putting together for the next couple of years, and I love that you get to see where everything will eventually fit in. The hull plates are die cast, and that is so awesome. I know that the model is going to be all die cast, but the feeling these sections after all of it put together is so satisfying. The quality of the parts will continue to astound me as we go along. Here we see one hull plate section out of the packaging, and note the Aztecing. It has a slight green, gray, and blue coloring to it. The magazine describes how the shooting models were painted, and this hull plating we see on the model will be a combination of the 3 shooting models' paint, with this model being what many at Paramount and CBS feeling is the most accurate representation of what the Enterprise D really would have looked like, especially on a shooting model. The color scheme was meant to help with the lighting and giving the shooting models depth. On the back side of the hull plating section, you can see the die cast with any paint, which makes me happy for some reason. I'm not sure. The screw holes that you see here are the receiving end of screws, so I'm assuming that this is where we'll see the metal superstructure screw into the back of the hull plates to firmly secure the hull sections together. Here is also where you see the window slots and escape pod slots. The first step in Stage 4 was inserting the escape pods and windows into the back of the panel. For me, this was tough to do. I've got big hands, big fingers, and although quite dexterous, the windows are tiny and I needed something to help me insert them into the holes without slipping or going in backwards. You can see here how small the windows are, so I wound up using a pair of angled needle nose pliers to insert them. Since filming the video, I've purchased a full model making kit, replete with all the tweezers and small implements that will be needed for all models going forward. In this first stage, the instructions called for 18 dark windows and 15 lighted windows to be installed. Eaglemoss knows what they're doing. That included extra dark windows and light windows and escape pods just in case you lose one, or in the instance of wanting to create your own lighting pattern on the hull, changing the number of dark and lit windows that you see in each hull plate section. I do wonder how many extra windows and escape pods will be left after the whole model is complete. As I was building the stage, I tossed around the idea of doing custom lighting schemes for the windows on the Enterprise, but ultimately decided against doing that and going with the windows as seen for the last 36 years. I feel that it'll make the model more authentic. But what are your thoughts? Let me know in the comments below. The window and the first hull section are all installed, as you can see here. Pliers weren't the best tool for the job, and I eventually gave up using them and made sure to be careful putting the windows in going forward. I'm looking forward to be even better prepared for the next 4 stages with the new tools and better understanding of making these videos. This is my 3rd video and it's taken me considerably less time to create than the last 2. Here you can see the escape pods being installed into the hull plating sections. They slot right in, with the only thing you have to do is make sure that the red lines are positioned correctly. You can also see where the pods were connected to the model tree with the little tabs at the top and bottom. If these pieces were exposed, I would have taken the time to sand them down. Here we are with step 8 complete. It took 15 minutes to complete the section top to bottom. Not great for my previous poor editing skills. There'll be a lot of prep work that needs to be done before similar stages are built in the future, such as pre-removing the windows and escape pods from their model trees. What's cool is we get to build each plate one by one, and it is confirmed through this build that each light will be lit in the model. To do so with any other previous type of model would have been a serious undertaking. I'm currently learning how to wire up breadboards for lighting, and for models that I'm planning to build here soon. The thought of trying to do lighting on the scale of this model with any other way would not be possible, I think. The amount of wires, LEDs, and individual breadboards being shoved into even a large model would be excessive, and I would worry about the plastic parts melting from the heat. I would be interested if any of you have seen a fully lit model of the Enterprise D outside of the shooting model. If you have, post a link in the comments below. I would love to see it. This is what I'm starting to recognize as an example of the reflector pieces for this model. It is a hard plastic, and it might be hard to see here, but the reflective layer is underneath a clear layer of plastic with holes and LED placements set in. The holes that you see here and here are where the reflector attaches to the back of the piece that we completed in the previous section. Before we attach the reflector to the back of the hull section created in the step before, we need to secure the LEDs to the reflector. All 3 of the LED leads given in the stage were the same, and we'll be taking one here and attaching it to the reflector. The part was a little frustrating as the LEDs weren't cooperating and did not want to stay in place. I don't think it was the model, I think it was me. However, I was worried about them staying in place, so I deployed a tactic that I remembered from a Reddit thread about this build a few years ago. We'll be using a small piece of clear plastic tape to cover the top of the LED to affix it in place. If I was a little less clumsy, I'm sure they would stay in place, but as it was noted in the thread about the model, it might be an issue going forward. Here we have the LEDs installed into the reflector plate and then screwed into place on the back of the hull section. It was during this step I dropped the section and half the windows fell out onto my carpet. I am proud to say that I did collect all of the pieces, but it took a good few minutes of combing through my carpet to find everything. You can see here and here where the attachment points from the hull plate section connect to the reflector plate as previously noted. Once screwed in, I could finally see the windows and escape pods on the other side, and boy was it satisfying to see. This is the first hull section complete of many that I can imagine. I really love seeing the windows in place, and like the escape pods, the variation in textures and surface details really brings the model to life. You can see the reflector at the top will also be connecting to a later hull section, which is cool to see. The next hull plate section was just about the same as the previous. I followed the window diagram from the instructions as stated before. This time, even with just my fingers installing the windows, it went much quicker. The section called for 15 of each lit and dark windows with only 2 escape pods. I was able to complete the section in about 7 minutes or so. In the next couple of photos, you might be able to get a better idea of the reflector plates. Here you can see a clear overlay on top of the silver reflector backing. Here's the back of the reflector plate. It is dull and has a stamp with random letters and numbers on it. This side of the reflector will always be on the back of the model, with the reflective inner pointing towards the inside of the hull and the windows. You can see here and here where we'll be attaching the reflector to the hull plate section just created. Here are the arrow screw points. We are attaching plastic metal, so I needed to be careful when tightening the screws here. This section of hull plating had 2 LED strands attached to it. As you can see, both LED strands are attached with 2 on one side, 1 at the top, and 1 on the other side. This is a very bright piece when fully lit, as we will see here in the coming minutes. I used clear tape here as a part of the process and not after the LEDs had fallen out a few times. It made for a quicker build. Once again, these are so beautiful when completed. The depth of the model with the windows and the escape pods is so gratifying to see. I can't wait for this thing to be done. I know that I'm just going to be standing and staring at it for hours on end. You can also see the tape here at the top of the reflector. At the beginning, I used too much, so I did go back in and remove the excess tape, and now there's only a small tab of tape over each LED. I didn't notice any heat coming off the LEDs. I also didn't keep them lit for very long, and I didn't see any diminished light coming through after I put the tape on, so I'm not too worried about it going forward. If you think this is a bad idea or have another idea for keeping the LEDs in place, please drop a comment letting me know. I'd be glad to incorporate any idea you all might have. In the final part of Stage 4, we are building a thinner hull plate section with a transporter emitter. This piece will attach to the previous section just built and is located just forward of the 1701D registry. You can see here where the phaser strip will eventually be installed, and for whatever reason, it is super satisfying to see the trench where the strip will go. I really hope that the strip will be one piece that ties the whole saucer together. The section is also very straightforward, with only installing 5 escape pods and the transporter emitter, and then attaching it to the previous section. Here we have the transporter emitter. The piece is small, but don't let that fool you. It's metal, and I wouldn't be surprised if it was copper or brass. It's solid, and has a piece of 3M double-sided tape on the back. Attaching the emitter was simple enough, with only the available space to install the piece. It went right into place and gave instant depth to the hull plate. On the back of this hull plate section, we were only installing 5 escape pods. The window slots you see are not part of the section, and we will be leaving them blank. Where the escape pods are installed is where we're going to be attaching the previous hull plate section with the reflector, as you can see here. Only 2 screws hold these 2 sections together, and they are a different type of screw than we have used before. The screws have a flat top and sit on top of the reflector section. The connection is very sturdy and looks amazing when we turn it over to see here. There are some gaps in the hull plate section, as you can see here. I am sure that once everything is attached to the metal superstructure, imperfections and panel gaps will be eliminated. I will cover that a little bit more in the video section coming up. Well, here we are with some lights on our completed section. It's very satisfying having the ability to test the lights as we go along. It brings the model to life a little bit at a time. That panel gap I just mentioned has a little bit of light escaping, but as I said, I don't imagine it will be there once the model is complete. These 2 pieces look so good when lit and attached. Here's the first section that we built that was photographed poorly. For whatever reason, I couldn't get a proper photo of this section lit up. My camera was just not cooperating. Regardless, I do feel like you get a really good idea of the lighting on this model. The lit up windows in this section do look really good, even when a little bit blurry. Isn't it beautiful? Well, here we are with stage 4 all lit up, and I have to say this stage was a doozy. I can imagine that there will be many stages like this as we build up every whole section of the Enterprise D. I'm very impressed with how they turned up. All of the small detail work and putting in of the individual windows took time and made for an enjoyable activity. I'm really looking forward to putting this model together over the next couple of years. I don't know if we'll be doing another video segment like this one again, as it was a lot of work to put together for this stage, way more than actually building the model. Stages like this will be shot and sped up at parts to show the process. Also, so I don't have to write a 3,600 word script to accompany the photos we just saw. So in stage 5, as we see here, it's actually a pretty cool little card. I am actually going to save that. It's I don't know if there's anything inside. We will find out. But inside, which I've already pre-opened, we have the shuttle bay, main shuttle bay, which is going to attach to here. And maybe should have, finished cutting this all the way. I don't know. So I'm going to bring some scissors out. Make this a little bit easier for myself. We got the shuttle bay door here. Got EM screws, which I have not seen yet. And BM screws, which I believe were in the last section. So now, let me see if there's anything in this card. It doesn't look like it. But, regardless, that's a pretty cool little card. So, I'm going to set that off to the side. As a matter of fact, I'll put that right there. Okay. And then here, before I pull this trash away. Oh, man. So, the last section was kind of done with some, plastic pieces, reflective parts. Here is where we're into the metal, and this is quite impressive. Once again, as I spoke to in the last episode, the quality of these parts, like this is heavy. I would say a couple of ounces at least. If you look at the craftsmanship, the different layers of screws, the Aztecing is already on there. You don't have to paint anything. It's very subtle, and one of the things that they went over in this magazine specifically is how they took the 3 different shooting models of the Enterprise D and combined them into this one model. And one of the producers said, I think it was Bob Justman actually, said that if they had been shooting like next gen these days with physical models, they would actually use this model as a shooting model. Everything is directly cut and pasted basically from the composition of the 3 different shooting models. The 4-footer, the 6-footer that was really smooth, that was created that could separate, and then the 6-footer that was more of the main shooting model. So once again, you have all the pieces, and this connects to the top of this. So now, before we get started with all of that, we are going to, I will say, let's go ahead and wait until the end. I'm going to light this bad boy up once all the pieces are put together. So this seems like a pretty straightforward, section. We're just going to be attaching these pieces, the 3 pieces, plus the shuttle bay, to the back of the bridge section and deck 1. So these are the EM screws that I'm going to put over to this side, and I'm going to put this little baggie over here as a reminder that that's the side that I put that there. And then the same thing for over here, the BM screws. Okay. So now, BM, 2 screws, and then we're going to turn over. I'm going to set these pieces off to the side. I don't know what to do with my hands, so I'm going to set them over here. As you can see, or here, excuse me, real metal. So now we have the part that we put together in picture form last episode, and here it is in all of its glory. quite magnificent. The lights themselves, here, there's a giant reflector piece underneath here, and if you look specifically, and I did get pictures of it, but if you look specifically, you have specific lighted sections. Okay, the flush vents, one side is lit, one's not. I'm curious about that placement. And then the thing, I don't know if it's coming through clearly or not, but the reason that the escape pods were done separately is just for that textural component. Man, it's so pretty. So anyway, we're going to take the shuttle bay, and we're going to use 2 BM screws. And what we're going to do is put these, wow, it just clicks right into place. It knows that it's supposed to be there. It wants to be there. This is, I will practice with this and figure out a solution for that, but in the short term. So we got BM pieces here, and so that metal, and you don't always have to, but there are some pieces they were saying, and they specifically highlight the section. It was on the last section, which I actually haven't done yet. I'm shooting this in order of which episodes I'm going to release, but they went over that previously, that there are going to be certain pieces where you got to kind of back out and then use some compressed air to blow out the pieces. So then I see B. Don't be afraid. Yeah. Unlike with the plastic ones, you can really reef down on these metal ones. You obviously don't want to go too crazy, but if you want proper fitment for the model, absolutely. That's still not quite there. It's interesting. It's kind of like doing a tire. Tighten one side, the other side loosens up a little bit. Yeah. Wow. So there we have the shuttle bay. Series, I'm going to say, each side definitely. How's it going along? Oh yeah, no, that's definitely in place. So yeah, it's kind of cool. Now, if you were to think about the inside of the Enterprise, like the shuttle bay itself basically starts just below the main bridge, and it's just a shame that they were never able to show it on TV. It really was. Okay, so now step B is going to be to use the EM screws, which are a bit wider, and we're going to take this piece here and we're going to put it here. Now, yes, I see. Oh, how clever. So they provided channels for, wow, it just snaps right into place. It's amazing. So they were obviously thinking about how everything fits and wiring. So back in the day, I did a Deep Space Nine, like a 3-foot fiber optic model. And God knows what happened to it. I remember it was really expensive back in the day, and I've seen them online these days, and it is just out of control expensive. But the thing that was really infuriating, and keep in mind, I built this when I was like 15. The thing that was really infuriating about that model is they did not really intuitively put the fiber optic routing locations. They did a horrible job of routing it, and a lot of the times you would break the fiber optic strands. At least I did as a clumsy kid. I'm a clumsy adult, so you know, I'm over here doing like fine precision things, and I'm talking about precision stuff as I'm chasing around a screw. Once again, real professional here, but I'm really excited to do this and bring this to you. So yeah, I keep seeing as we go along just the level of quality that you see with this model. You know, like I would have killed for this as a kid, but then again, as a kid, I wouldn't have the $2,000 odd it's going to wind up taking to build this. I kind of did some calculations this morning, and I was just like, excuse me, how much? So you will hear kittens scratching and clawing on things in the background. I apologize, although I'm sure none of you will mind. Yeah, it's very interesting. I'm trying to approach it as if you were tightening lug nuts, and it's working as if you're tightening lug nuts. It's fascinating, but look at that. Look at that connection. So pretty. Okay, so now I'm not going to over tighten if you don't need to. So I'm going to take one of the wings here. I don't think it really matters which one. And once again, just kind of clicks right into place. Fascinating. I love it. This Spock would say very fascinating. Just right into place. And then we use BM screws for this one. Oh, interesting. Well, there's only one BM left. And like I said, I got a little container that I bought from Harbor Freight. That is a little screw container. And it's very clear, like when you're screwing things in, like where you put screws. Like these are where you put them in, this is where they receive. And I really appreciate that level of detail. Like when I was building the nacelles, for instance, as you saw in the last part, I may not have described it because I'm still in the process of recording that video. But in the process of building the nacelles, I had to kind of learn how they built their sections, and like when the cage itself for the nacelle, it was really like there were screw holes that I couldn't even see on the outside. It was fascinating. It really was. Wow. So concentrating on tightening this up, and I'm just marveling at how I'm feeling. It's hard to put into perspective on the video, but like, curious about that. If I just need more screw tightening. And obviously, like, these panels will fit down better. But I'm just kind of marveling at how I'm feeling it fit. And, it's kind of a weird little janky spot right there, but obviously, as you fit this to the saucer, it will straighten out, so I'm not too worried about that. Okay. But I would say maybe it's a little bit of a janky part, just throwing that out there. Nothing's going to be perfect, and but I will say that it would be kind of nice for perfect from this because of how much it's going to wind up costing. And that's the thing, is I don't really treat myself to a whole lot of things. My nerd habits aren't too bad. I got some stuff. You guys might see my setup at some point, which would be cool, but you guys kind of see just a little bit of it. But I got some cool stuff, but my habits are not too bad. I try to avoid going in excess for all this, so this is kind of like my treat for myself. And to be fair, I have been desperately waiting all month for this. Like, I've just been checking the Fanhome page, like, have you charged me yet? Have you charged me yet? And then I'm like, dude, you're getting excited about them charging you $55. So what can I say? But this is also, it's going to take roughly the better part of 2.5 years to build. It's 131 sections, and you get 4 a month, and there's no option to buy any more. So, yeah, it's good enough. So, it's kind of the same on both sides, and obviously the panels will fit a little bit better as you go along. So, I believe that is this section. So now, before we go for this episode, and am I super excited about showing this to you. So, as part of this section, we are testing. So, I shall close the book so you guys can get a nice look at what the model will look like eventually. Satisfying. Okay, so on this board, there's an A, B, C, and D, and E, and then F is where the power comes in. Okay, so I'm going to take a C and plug that in. The pins go to the back. Try not to bend them. And there's the bridge module. Super satisfying. Yes, this is exciting. Exciting. Like I am just a big kid right now. I am so excited about all this. This is going to be, I just want to make sure I'm getting the pins right here. Oh, man. No. I've got a very temperamental kitten who is wanting to enjoy the festivities with us. Her name is Soji. Yes, named after Soji Asha, because I'm that much of a nerd. My girlfriend's cat, her name is Mochi. And so Soji and Mochi. So obviously whatever that is later works. But this is the lit top section of the Enterprise. So here we are. I want to thank you guys so much for watching today. In all of this process, the thing that as much as I've been looking forward to building this and doing this whole project, the process of building these videos and doing something that, is really cool and expensive, and I can share it with all you all, is super exciting. And so I'm really excited to have brought this to you today. I really appreciate your time for watching. If you have any comments, please leave them down below. I'm super curious. This is the second video that I've put out, the first one with actual video. And yeah, so once again, here we are with my thanks. And until next time, may the Force always be with you.